How's it going, everybody? We are back with another episode of the podcast. I am very excited to bring you guys this one as I get to sit down with somebody that you get to hear about every single time that I record this, which is the owner and founder of 110%, Kevin Papa. Kevin and I go back, upwards of 5 years at this point. He introduced me to this idea of 110% back in 2019. And through this conversation, we get to see how he's managed to scale 110% to become not only just a supplement, but kind of this community within the sport of powerlifting. What his morals are behind, himself as an owner of the company, as well as some stuff here and there that he's learned along the way. And of course, it feels a little bit weird saying this, but, as I always do, I want to thank Kevin for supporting both me and the podcast by having 110% sponsor myself and give a discount code to our listeners. If you do want to go check out any of their supplements, please use the link in the description. My code is right next to it that will get you 10% off at checkout. I know that they just released a cherry grenadine new pre-workout flavor, which is amazing. It tastes fucking awesome. And I believe their intro workout also was just ranked the best on Subheads, which if you guys don't know what Subheads is, Subheads basically ranks by like ingredient, quality, formula, and price. And the intro workout that 110% offers ranked in their gold standard or their number one spot. So if you want to check out any of those or anything else that 110 has to offer, please click the link below. Use code ROB at checkout for around 10% off. And of course, if you've ever wanted to work with me, being a powerlifter and you want to see a little bit about how my system works as a powerlifting coach, please don't be afraid to hit the inquiry link below. It'll shoot you to a quick jot form that shouldn't take more than 5 to 10 minutes to fill out. And then me and you can link up on a call where we can learn a little bit more about each other. You can learn a little bit about my system, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to work with one another. But without further ado, I do want to introduce you guys to episode 16 of the Escalate podcast. For those of you that are listening, I've got the Kevin Papa on air right now. He's sitting in his basement here in New Jersey. I think you're still in New Jersey, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in my warehouse.
City?
No, we moved. We're in I don't know if this laptop can even go that far, but I'm in the warehouse right now. We went from Jersey City to I'm in Ewing now. We bought a house down in the border of PA and New Jersey. It's amazing.
Nice.
You ever come to New Jersey, you're coming here because we gotta do this in person one day. But yeah.
I know. Me and Kevin have been talking about doing a podcast since I think we met, right?
Yeah.
Like it's been years since we had this idea, and I'm really glad to finally get you on. For those of you that don't know Kevin, I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, kind of what you do, what you've built with 110.
Yeah, so my name is Kevin Papa, owner and I guess operator of 110% supplements. I have a background in fitness. I was a trainer. I was everything from a trainer, powerlifting coach, and I landed on this. And I guess I'd love for this to be what I do the rest of my life, my calling. So based out of New Jersey, I don't think I'm leaving. I love New Jersey, shockingly. And I think we're going to end up, talking about a lot of the smaller details as well anyway. So just really grateful to be on here.
Yeah, dude, I wanted to ask, so you did powerlifting coaching for a while. Like you were just a coach, and then obviously I think you were a caddy at one point. And then you were probably like a personal trainer somewhere at like a country club, I assume.
Yeah. So I caddied since I was 13. So bless my mom. My father passed away when I was 12, and my mom's original thought after all the grief was, I'm in the middle child of two other brothers, was you're not staying home all day. Like I want to start getting you out into the adult world. And the best thing she ever did was call a place and said, they had a bag room job available, and they were like, you can't work that. He's literally 13, but you can carry golf bags. And I started doing it every summer, and we'll probably reference this a million times, but it changed my life because, especially looking for male role models, I was now around millionaires and people, and I learned a lot of positive things and how to interact. And I actually learned a lot of I think mentorship sometimes is like learning what not to do. Kind of learning the mistakes you see other people making. So I always caddied. I use that as a baseline for, the summer into the fall. I would caddy, and then I would do different jobs. As I got older, I only have an associate's degree in college. I would have had to pay my way through it, and I was not a great student in high school, which is shocking. I was voted Chatterbox 4 years in a row, so I mean I could talk, which is obviously a genetic thing. Um, and every winter and into spring, I would try to find a job as I became an adult that I could stick with and do full time. And I just always felt very I couldn't work a corporate job. I couldn't work for somebody else. I was great at sales, but it just never paid enough for the work I was doing. And I got to a point where I was powerlifting coaching, caddying, and I was doing personal training at various gyms, Impact Zone 1 that you know of before
Mhm.
110. And I got to 2019, which was a really shitty year for me. Just I don't want to say depressed, but it was just a really bad year where I realized that I'm getting to a point where I have to pick a career and I have to do something. And it scared the shit out of me because I didn't feel like I fit and belong anywhere. And I had a product and a vision that I invested in that year. I mean, we were in the group chat, right? You were in that
Yeah.
original group chat, which is
Yeah.
insane, looking back. And the rest is history. I mean, I think for me, I don't think entrepreneurship is right for everybody, but I think that for me, this is who I am, right? I get to represent myself and defend this product in a sense. And, you know, um, I'm just really grateful to be able to do this. I don't know if it'll be a 20-year thing. I'll exit one day, or it could be 3 years, right? Being realistic, like I'm just grateful to be able to do it right now.
Yeah, that's a really cool, outlook on it. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about, your view on mentorship and when you were caddying. I mean, that's something that I've known you for years. That's something that I never knew was like such an impactful thing on your life. You talked about, you know, getting these life lessons because you're around millionaires, right? Like people that are a part of country clubs normally have a decent amount of money to their name. Like, let's be honest here, especially in the New York, New Jersey area. What are some are there any highlights there that, really stuck out to you that you still carry with you? Or was it just like an amalgamation of a lot of different interactions that you had?
Um, because I also worked bagroom at some point too. So for years, for almost over a decade, I would be there 12 hours a day in the summertime. You got to know people on a level where I think at a young age, even if you have both parents, you don't listen, right? You don't absorb things. You might eventually, but I feel like a lot of people eventually respect their parents for what they did, right? And I think for me, watching these people that weren't trying to tell me to do something, but the way they interacted with others, the way they treated me, their kids. When you caddy, you're out there for 4 or 5 hours with somebody. So I had to learn how to, a lot of golfers aren't very good, but they think they are. So you got to spend 4 or 5 hours talking to this person. And at the end of that, they have to like me enough after playing a really shitty round enough to pay me, right? Like it was a weird thing. And I feel like I was raised by now. Let me shout out my mom. My mom did an amazing job working full time and raising us three. But I was raised on the father figure side by an entire like membership, if that makes sense, right? And there are some certain members that and memories I have. We could sit here for hours and I could just tell stories. But I think that there are certain members that I guess saw that in me, right? Like a lot of them were parents' age or older, and it was just very interesting to not have a father, but be able to go to a place that I felt I belonged. I don't know how to really put it, but I wasn't being told to do a certain thing. It was, look at how this guy interacts with others. Look at how this one does. Oh, let me, a lot of these guys like one thing I learned was a lot of these guys owned successful businesses, but they didn't know how to run the business. They weren't close to their customer, whatever. You hear these little things, and over the course of 15 years, you kind of put this puzzle piece together. And, I'm not perfect. I still obviously a very flawed person, but I learned so much subtly. Like I wasn't being forced to it. I wasn't coerced. Like a parent might say, you're going to do this thing or you're grounded, whatever. I learned by just watching it, right? Almost like a third party. And I think that job shaped me more than anything. I think that I am who I am. It's not a surprise. I own I'm an entrepreneur from that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. And going into the supplement industry can't be an easy thing. It's so saturated, to the point where I think a lot of supplements that come out, people they don't even know what's going on now. Yeah, right. It's like it's not regulated by the FDA 9 times out of 10. The really really good ones, yeah, they'll be NSF certified, third party tested, and those are the ones that you normally see get on this kind of national global kind of stage. We talk about the Cellucors, we talk about the BPNs, we talk about those, but you have to have a certain amount of capital to get to that point, right? A certain amount of ability to market to that level of an international stage. When it comes to you handling that with 110, one of the earliest things that I saw you do was build the community. And I think that was an extremely smart thing to do, right? Because I think that the faster that you get a product into people's hands and the faster that you service that product to them, getting feedback, maintaining that level of communication, like you said, you are the person, I think you mentioned this on a story or something, you're the person that responds to the DMs, responds to the emails, packs it. I mean, you told me that tonight you're going to be probably up until midnight, 1 a.m., packaging orders from the cherry grenadine drop,
Yeah.
right? Which for people, I'll probably mention in the beginning of the podcast, but for people that don't know, there was a new fucking flavor that just dropped. So please go check it out. It'll be linked in the description. But you're the person that does all of this, and to have that hands-on kind of relationship with the product and with the community is extremely important. Was that something that you knew that you needed to do from the forefront, or was it something that just came about from mistakes that you made in the long run?
So it was necessity initially. I mean, the way I view it, I've saved probably $250,000 warehousing my own stuff because, when you have a lot of supplement companies or manufacturers will partner with a 3PL. So like originally I had it for a few months where it's like you pay X for the pallets you have and it's like $5 a pick, right? Whatever it is. But they would screw up orders and it would take like 5 or 6 days for it to even ship. And I realized that I'm not a control freak. Like I think micromanaging kills a lot of managerial positions and even CEOs and things like that. But I wanted to take control of that thing because that was what would separate me from the raws, the BPNs, those, because the guy picking those products and putting them in a box doesn't give a shit about the customer. They're trying to go home, smoke a little weed and sit on the couch and play Xbox.
Yeah.
Right? They're not thinking about it. For me, I know we scaled too far because I don't have any way of being a part of this. One of the lessons, ironically, from the golf course, you're going to hear me say this a lot. You'd notice people that were millionaires, right? They had, from the outside, you Google their name, they have a Wikipedia page, they're killing it. But then you listen to the issues, they get a phone call and hear their manager and talk to them and realize, holy shit, you have fires at the customer level, the level one, that you don't even know about because it's just getting lost. And I realized that money is great, but I wanted to execute, right? I wanted to do it the right way. And I think, like I said, my salary is just the money I save not having a third party do it, right? And I think for me, I always said financial freedom. I think it's dangerous to have a number. I need to make 10 and I need to make 100. I need to make 500. I don't care. If I can pay my mortgage, I can buy my golf clubs, material, like small possessions, and I can live without the fear, paycheck to paycheck. That's all I need. I think too many people, as they make more money, also increase their cost to a level that they don't need to, right? I drive a Kia. To me, cars aren't important. $200 a month. I paid it off 2 years ago. Got 140,000 miles on it. You'd never think I own a C. I drive to golf courses. They're like, who the fuck is this guy? I don't care because cars, for me, are not important. Now, golf clubs or golf or whatever else is. So I'll invest in the things that I can. For me, with 110, I always want to be a piece of the company. And again, I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to tell people how they're going to do it. But like, even if 2 years from now, I have 3 people fulfilling for me, I will still be here, right? I won't be telling them how to do it and like, you're doing this all wrong. But I don't want to be a passive owner where I'm sitting home counting money. Because truthfully, even if I was to exit with some ungodly number, I would be losing my mind because this is what I wanted to do. When I was 16 and I tried pre-workout for the first time and I wanted to own a supplement company, it wasn't because I wanted that route to make millions of dollars, right? I think a lot of people start companies and think first of, I could make $10 million. And it should be, I could sell this product, right? This service is superior. There's no one doing it around me. If the first thing you say, like I see it now with kids who will reach out to me and be like, hey, I want to start a supplement company because I want to be a millionaire. And I'm like, you're going to fail because that's not how you build a business. You don't build it wanting to make money. If you want to do that, just invest it somewhere. I do this like tonight. The 8 hours I'll spend fulfilling, I will be the happiest fucking person on this planet because I'm being paid to do the thing I wanted to do. And I try, God knows I have an ego in a certain way, and I'm sure arrogance and whatever, but I am so lucky to run this company. Even if we never scale to whatever level that some finance bro thinks we can get to, I get to wake up every day and work for myself. And more importantly, I get the only responsibility I have is my customer. It's not some manager. I shoulder the losses and I take a lot of credit for the wins. And I think that is ultimately the way I wanted it. And I don't even know. I went on a run. I went on a tangent, so I apologize because that's what I'm good for. I think it was a necessity to TLDR. It was a necessity, and I learned how much I loved it, and I don't know that I would relinquish it. I don't know that I would. Someone could tell me that they would fulfill my orders for free, and I don't know that I would do it just because I love being a part of it.
Yeah, I think that's super important, being at that ground level. It's something that I think a lot of powerlifting coaches take for granted because they have to be at the ground level. They have to have the interactions, right? And, as you scale up, you start to see, a couple of other, coaching businesses that hire assistant coaches, right? We think of, Nori with, Michael Jin and Aiden Rader, and we think of Flex with William and Mikey D and all those guys. And I think that the most important thing, and what I know because I know both Sean and Joey, I think the most important thing to do at that, perspective of being kind of the head person is to keep your feet wet, right? Keep your hands in the mix. Don't let it escape you, because as soon as you do, allocation is a very hard thing to do for somebody that cares a lot about their company and a lot about what they do. I struggle with this on the basis of doing research, right? I have to allocate certain things because I don't have a time in the day to, basically organize Excel spreadsheets. Like, I'll give that to an undergraduate research assistant, but I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. I'm like, man, I really fucking hope you do this right, because I don't want to do it again. And I really want to make sure that you're organizing this in the best way, and you're not, accidentally deleting a little bit of important data, because if it happens here and there, then it's going to have this kind of snowball effect. And I'm sure that you feel the same way about allocation at the, at the company level, where it's like you said, if you have 3 people, in the next 3 years that, are helping you fulfill because you've scaled to that point, like, you don't want to not be in that room. You want to be there because, one, you want to have a relationship with the team and you want them to have that trust with you. And I think that's important. But 2, you still want to have that relationship with the customer base, right? And you still want to be able to tell the customers, like, no, this is me. Like, my truest, rawest form, like you said, and maybe we'll get into this in a bit. You tried pre-workout at 16 years old, and you were like, dude, I really want to fucking do this. And it wasn't like, somebody like myself who was 16 watching Christian Guzman thinking like, oh my God, this guy's driving a fucking Ferrari at 22 years old. Like, I made that mistake. I know that path. And it was a really cool thing to watch. And, people like Max June and Christian Guzman, all those guys are, extremely inspirational to myself. They're probably inspirational to you too, because they're kind of the OG, fitness people. But I think we've seen them make mistakes too, where it's like they started to allocate, and then, companies started to go down a little bit. But you did mention that you tried pre-workout at 16 for the first time. And that's when you realized you're like, fuck, dude, I really just want to make pre-workout.
I don't know. So I was never really a caffeine drinker. I was always very high energy, but now I don't really need, the coffee in the morning or whatever. Pre-workout to me is really for, I don't need the triple scoop pre-workout. It just it comes naturally to me. But I think I was Super Pump 250, Gaspar Nutrition at the time, and I loved it. I don't know what it was. I didn't do drugs as a kid. Like, I don't know, pre-workout was that like, oh my God. Because the gym to me I wasn't an outcast, but I was somebody that was social, but at the same time, wasn't in the normal cliques, right? I wasn't a jock. I was kind of a nerd, but I just kind of had a lot of different friend groups. And I think it also made me kind of feel lonely. And the gym to me was a place I could go and just for 2 hours do whatever, it was like freedom kind of, right? Every single day of vacation. So I realized that like the pre-workout was almost a conduit to that. And I don't know, I remember sitting outside my friend's house at 16, 17 and just being like, I want to do this. I feel like I could do this. This is really cool. Most of the products I've tried aren't that good, right? It's almost like you find an industry and then you use it and then like the facade wears off where you're like, wait a second, these massive brands aren't putting money into, I'll expand on this later, but I think one thing I want people to remember for any product is you don't just pay the cost of the product to produce it. You're paying for the owner's lifestyle, their spending choices, the way they do everything. Because, right? Like if you think about it, like, what the hell is a pre-workout? I don't know what it is. This lean body, right? Like if this is the pre-workout, if I spend a ton on advertising, marketing, well, the cost of the product to produce the formula cannot be as good, right? You realize these massive companies that are on GNC shelves or whatever, they're not really giving you that much like value. The last 5 years before I started 110, I didn't touch pre-workout anymore. I was making it myself. There's a company in Nutravita Shop. I don't know if they're still around. It's out of California, pharmaceutical grade, single ingredient. You get it like by the kilo. So I would just mix it myself. My friends thought I was fucking crazy. I'd come to the gym with this white powder, unflavored, unsweetened. It tasted like the weirdest thing in the world, and it worked. I would get a crazy pump. All my friends would crash. They'd be waiting at home, and I would just sit there for 2 hours and just lift. And it was like, I think to me, that was the right way to go about owning a business because, again, it wasn't about profit first. It was, I have this really great product. It's for me. It's not for anybody else. I'm not thinking about selling it. It's just for me. I never even thought about that for the first 4 or 5 years. And I think for me, it just became this like, I know I can do it better. And even now with the bigger companies, I'm not going to say Raw making 100 million, whatever these companies, BPN, they're killing it. But to me, I kind of put a smile on my face and say, cool, my product's still better. Both products stand by stand. If you didn't know the name, if you didn't know it was C-Bum or whatever, and I'm not saying we have the greatest product in the world either. I don't want to say that. But it's just really cool when you look at a GNC or a Vitamin Shop, you could walk in there and go, for $45, you couldn't find a product that has half this formula. I have a saying before you talk, because I've been talking a lot, where if your family, I've said this on a caption too, if your family owns a business, right, a 4-star restaurant, it's been the family for years, you guys make the best food, it's Michelin rated, you have 30 tables, right? And on the other street across from you, there's a McDonald's with a drive-through, right? Which one's making more money? Obviously the McDonald's. But is that how you judge success? I don't. And going back to your Max Tuning and Christian Guzman, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting the Ferrari. I think that was my biggest point is originally I felt like that, where I'll fuck these people that just want money. If that's what you love in life, and I'm not saying you, but if that's what you love in life, go for it. The whole point is to find the thing that you love. If you want to just make 100 and then 1 billion or whatever, go do it. That's okay. But for me, I think the issue is when you live a life or you buy things or you consume things that you don't actually want. You're just keeping up with the Joneses, or you just see your friend like it, or it's jealousy, or I want to fit into this club. The greatest thing for me is that I'm the same person outside of Instagram that I am on it, right? This is who you get. I'm not faking it. This isn't a facade. You get the same person. That I'm proud of that. And that I've really found my niche and the way I want to live. I don't live someone else's life. How sad is it if you spend 30 years living someone else's dream just because you think you have to, right? And it's like, I think it's so powerful talking to people like yourself that are conscious of that and realize like, you can do it your way, right? Yeah, you can learn from others and be inspired. That's great. But there's only one Rob Escalante, right? There's only one Kevin Papa. It would be such a shame for you to just turn yourself into a copy of something else, a fashion mule, a fake of somebody else. Do it your way, right? Write your own story, because I don't give a shit how much is in my bank. I'm successful, and I did it my way. And that to me is more powerful than the $100 million, anything, right? You could give me a small island off the coast of Mexico. It doesn't matter. This is what I wanted, and material possessions don't touch that. Like, you have to feel proud. You built a successful coaching company, and you're still doing all these other things, research, everything else. You did it your way. You should be incredibly proud of yourself, and it should never be, man, I don't have enough money in the bank. Man, there's other coaches driving a Porsche, right? Like, obviously, we all feel that way a little bit. But I'll be honest, I don't really feel that. I can't tell you the last time I saw someone else and was jealous of them. I could meet Max Tuning, shake his hand, be like, man, this guy's a crazy businessman, and then walk out and just either find inspiration, but not find jealousy, right? Because I'm not jealous of Max Tuning because I'm Kevin Powell.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, that specific example of, you shake his hand, you're just like, wow, this guy is obvious. I mean, he just sold sour strips to Hershey, for fuck's sake. Like, this guy's an insane human being. And walking away and going like, well, I'm not jealous. Like, that's his goal. That was his thing. It's that mindset of abundance, right? Where it's like, I think very early on, a lot of young powerlifting coaches and maybe a lot of young business owners, they start to see competition, and they start to see competition as a bad thing, right? I mean, this happened to me. People start popping up in the Texas coaching scene that are young. And I started to be like, oh man, this, I hope they don't take, whatever clients that I could potentially have. But then, and I think it was actually Joe Rogan of all people who said it, where it's like, you have to have this mindset of abundance. It's good to have those people, because guess what? That's more people caring about the thing that you care about. And when is that ever a bad thing? When is it ever a bad thing to have more of the people that like you or that you are like? And I want to mention something. It's something that you actually said, and I want you to maybe dive into a little bit, because you mentioned it a bit here. You said influence isn't a numbers game. It's not a stock you can pour money into and see growth. It requires you to remain true to your very fabric. It isn't a shortcut, it's a way of life. And you kind of explained that already. But when it comes to, creating this community within 110, because, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I think 110 has gone so much further than just being like, oh, this is just a pre-workout that I take. It's an outright community. You are a brand face of multiple powerlifting federations at this point. Multiple gyms, are carrying that 110% product, and then there's people in that gym that are tied to the company as ambassadors and as athletes. And I think that it's outgrown this idea of just like, oh, Kevin's doing his thing with a supplement industry, right? It's Kevin's doing his thing with fitness, with helping people. What does that whole, being an influencer or, having influence, how does that play a role in building that community?
First of all, it's kind of cool that you even like the fact that anybody even cares, because I just, you type things out in your car, you say it's really important things, and it's funny, it's amazing hearing it back. But I think we talked about mentorship earlier. I think mentorship and influence are a $0, you can't put money on it, right? I see it, it's a tangent, but I see people talk about, hey, $500 hour mentorship. That's not mentorship. Mentorship is helping. I'm not saying there's not costs associated with mentorship. Mentorship is the members that I had that were 65 years old that sat a wayward kid down and said, hey, let me help you even indirectly do that. That's what a mentorship is, right? Helping others. And what I realize is, like, even influencers, I hate the word influencer because at the end of it, they're giving you a discount code. They're giving you something. And people should make money for something that they're good at, right? But that's a car salesman. I don't think a car salesman's influential. I think he's just a salesman, right? And I think that for me, the best thing I can be is someone who helps others. And if that indirectly sells my product, if you say, hey, this guy's a really cool guy, I met him, oh, he owns a supplement company, like, try it, cool. But that's not the point, right? It's really cool that I am in a position where young kids seek me out, ask me my advice, or ask me my opinion on something, or tell me that they want to, like, whatever it might be. Even though I make fun of it all the time, even people come to me for a discount code. The fact that you value my company so much that you'll beg me for a discount code is amazing. And I think it's a dangerous thing because you can abuse that. And I think you see it a lot where people use it for, oh, you're my idol. Okay, buy this thing. Or you're my whatever. Okay, buy these $300 tickets and go see me or whatever. And I think for me, I want to make sure that people realize that I'm always here to try to help. And that if I see someone that needs help, I will, because at the end of the day, that's what's important. My product will always sell itself. And cool. That amplifies our sales because I'm a nice person. But ultimately, I think we should all be good people just to be good people. That's a real modern superhero, right? I grew up, I love DC Comics. I used to grow up drawing. The Flash is my favorite, right? And what I realized, because we all want superhero powers when we're a kid, right? What I realized is a real superhero, a real rarity now, is actually just being a good person, just to be a good person. You don't see that anymore. Everything has a price tag associated with it. Everything has a, well, I helped you, so here's that thing. Just be a good fucking person and don't expect anything. Even people who, I can't stand when you see someone who helps somebody and then has to post about it. Just help people, right? It's such a dumb story, but it sticks with me. Where I used to grow up, when I grew up, there's a dead end and it turns left and right. And I remember one time I go to make a left. I had to be like 17 years old at the time, and everyone's honking, and it's a red light, and there's this old man who's, I guess, a landscaper or something, and his truck had died in that lane, the first lane, and everyone's just honking at the guy, and he doesn't know what to do. So without thinking, I pull my car aside, I get out, and I'm like, get in the car and put it in neutral, and I help them push it up. And the thanks, like, I'm gonna tear up from talking about it, which sounds crazy, but like, to me, getting back in my car after helping that guy just to help him felt more powerful than him handing me $100, right? It wasn't about that. I still think about those moments because I think being a good person, being a superhero, a rarity, is being a good person, full stop, and just keep going. If someone wants to reward you for being a good person, awesome. But you didn't do it for a gain, right? If I get to sell my product and be, like, I'm so lucky that people think of me as a force in powerlifting or whatever it might be. That means more to me, again, than any check you could hand to me, any number you could give me. It doesn't matter, because I already have the greatest thing, which is people respect me and they value me enough to ask me something or confide in me. And it's just like, was it Joe DiMaggio, luckiest man on earth, when he retired as a Yankee? I feel like the luckiest man on the earth because I get to do what I love, but I actually can influence positively, and I don't have to put a discount code at the end of it. I don't have to say, go buy my product. I can just be a good person. And hopefully that with all my other flaws and mistakes I've made, hopefully that just shows through. If people know one thing about me, is I just want to help people, man. It's not about, again, in this day and age, influencing is dead. Just be a good person, right? Don't expect anything from it.
Yeah, 100%. And when it comes to like building the community around 110, obviously, you've talked about that on multiple occasions where it's just like, I want people that just want to be good people. I'm sure that you have had people that just don't want to be good people, right? That do, kind of have that idea of like, okay, yes, I'm the person. Here's my 110 discount code. Give me that commission, baby. And I'm sure that you've had, negative experiences and stuff like that. Are there any mistakes in that sense that you think that you could, I'm not telling you to name people per se.
Oh, I can name a couple, but I don't know if we want to.
I think we could both name a couple. But is there anything when you were building 110 from 2019 until now, right? From that group chat that we were in, where you were just like, dude, I really want to do this and I want to do it with natural sugar because that's what's going to make it taste best. And I want to do it with this amount of fucking beta alanine because it's the perfect mix. So where you're not like scratching your eyeballs out, but you still feel a little bit ants in your pants. And going from that position to this position now where you do have that community and you do have those people that look to you and say like, okay, yeah, that's Kevin. He's the person that, maybe I don't report to as an athlete, but that's somebody that I associate myself with. And then as you, the owner, being like, okay, that's, Otomu, right? And that's somebody that I associate myself with as somebody that I sponsor. Were there any mistakes that you made in that sense? Or was there anything that you realized and you were just like, oh no, I did that so right that I'm not even going to worry about any of this other stuff?
I think what I try to do with almost everything with 110 is be a consumer first and think about it before I think about the CEO or business side of it. When I'm making a product or talking to my customer or my athletes, think of it as a consumer or athlete first. And for me, so most supplement companies have minimums. You have to hit 50, like the Young LA, and they all do it, right? Mm-hmm. You need 100 codes a month or you're cut. I don't do that. The only people I've ever cut are people that are pieces of shit, right? Really, there's 2 this year, unfortunately, but that is really my only thing. There are people that get 0 discount code uses, but they're good people. And that's all I care about because ultimately, you'll notice how a lot of the stuff, I'm going to break this for people who think this is true, but your favorite influencer who's got hundreds of thousands of followers probably cannot get sales. They only have a discount code because it looks good optically. Most people can't get the sales. So ultimately, I have a team of people that don't have a big following necessarily, that aren't necessarily the strongest person in the world, because I think it's stupid to think the world champion is the best influencer. People like Adam Kafaga from New York are great influencers. Kid's got 900 followers. He's like, he has gotten hundreds of people to buy 110, right? Like that to me is the true story. Because I think it's silly to say, well, you need to come back when you have 50,000 followers. Who the fuck cares? Newsflash, it's more important who you are off of Instagram, not on it. And I think that for me, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I'll always take a chance on people. Are there people out there that would have theoretically been great athletes that I didn't bring on, or people that I shouldn't have brought on? Sure. But I'm willing to make that mistake as long as I stay true to my value. And my only thing is be a good person, try to help others, and be in the sport in some way, or be in strength sports in some way, right? I don't care if you have 500,000 followers. It doesn't matter to me. What I care about is that, and you've seen it, where most people I sponsor are people I've met. Right? If you DM me and you've never tried my product and you want to blow smoke up my ass, I don't care. That doesn't, cool, you made a TikTok video for this other brand and it made 10x sales for them. Don't care. Because on my own, respectfully, I can sell product. All I want is people that align with my company. And like, you're a great example. If I had an army of Atamus, of Rob Escalantes, of whoever else, we're invincible. We're unstoppable. Not because you can 10x sales and post the cherry granite and get 80 code uses. That's not the point. You're a good person. You're in the sport. You're helping others. That, to me, you're a high character individual. And you use my products, right? You were there, again, you were there from day one. That matters more to me than fucking Odell Beckham coming to me, right? It doesn't matter. I don't like transactional things all the time. Obviously, it's important in life. We got to pay for things. But I just want to support and be around good people because I think good things happen for them. And I think, like you said, I got lucky that I built the community because I think I just did it in a way where it's like, I'm just confident in what I have, but the people I had attached to the brand also helped that, right? It wasn't just an army of influencers, just millions of UGC content, or user-generated content or any of that stuff. It was just, we're good people. Like, we try our best. The most powerful thing I do is I sign email when I could be golfing and someone will send me an email at 11:51, and I guarantee you by 11:52, I've responded or I'm typing an email out. Is that sustainable for the next million years? No. If we continue to grow, yeah, you have to hand it off to some degree, but I always want to lead from the front, and I want people that do that too. And I think we have a great base. I mean, I think I have some of the best people, and I'm grateful for the people that are part of this company.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you keep saying, going back to the 2019 era, going back to, that first, I can picture it in my mind right now, that first label that you had, the big circle, the big circle, 110%. And all that. And like, for people that don't know, I mean, the product wasn't always this thing that everybody knew about. There's a couple years where it was like this, I think people called it like the hype beast pre-workout, right? Because there were mistakes in the formula that were made. I mean, I remember keeping my 110 in my car and it just turned into a rock, right? It would just turn into a rock. But I think it's important that and people, they understood this because they followed you and they followed the journey, is that you just took responsibility for it all.
Right.
And I think that's the number one, when you're building a community and you're building out a product or a coaching industry or a coaching business in the industry or whatever you want to do. If you're building a team and you're managing an amount of people or amount of customers, you have to be able to take responsibility for everything. And I mean, like, you can, I'm sure we've all probably read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Like, it's the number one fucking entrepreneur bro thing that everybody talks about, but it's true. As soon as you can take extreme ownership for all of the actions that happen underneath you, whether they're allocated actions or unallocated actions, everything else just starts to become so easy because people start to trust you. And then, for you, taking responsibility for the mistakes that were made and product that, got spoiled or didn't ship out in time or anything like that. And, providing, discount codes on top of that for people that had a poor experience. It shows that you are the extreme owner. You do take ownership over the entire process. And so, that's one thing from the consumer, the athlete, from my standpoint, that I saw from you, that I think is extremely important, that ties into this kind of community building in and of itself.
I mean, I don't know if you had
No, go ahead.
I think it's similar to coaching, where, like, imagine what makes a bad coach? Lack of communication, lack of willingness to adapt, and just not seeing that person. Hey, I'm messaging you, you're not there, whatever. It's the same as this. You look at, I'm always interested in how companies post and how they react to, to people. Great example is, even though it's a team, the Hornets, the NBA team, right? Yesterday or 2 days ago, they had a game and they gave away a PS5 to a kid in the middle of the court, right? Well, they ended up not giving the PS5 to him. They gave him a jersey, right? People flipped out and they posted this black and white, like black with white text. And it was like, hey, whatever. And it was the fakest apology ever. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. But I just think I love leading from the front because I would rather shoulder the fault. Like, there are times, like you said, where I try to get out in front of things, like the clumping. I could have said, oh, it's your issue, whatever. And to a degree, yeah, if you live in a hot car, it'll happen. But like, I'm not going to point fingers like a lot of companies will. I'm going to say, shit, I lost so much money on that first run because it wasn't the formula. It was the fact that it was a smaller tub. With more room in there, it just allows it to sift and all that. And I don't think we've had another issue from that, but I learned my lesson. It's one thing that I do now that it's funny. Most products are sitting on a shelf like this. It's powder, right? So it compacts because of gravity. When a guy fulfills it, right, he just puts it in the box and it compacts further. Every product that I touch, I flip on its head. You let the powder sift and fall to the bottom. And that sounds crazy, but we've reduced clumping by like 97% just from me doing that. And today I'll waste 10 minutes flipping it on its head, cumulatively with all the tubs, but I learned that. It's not micromanagement. I think the successful business entrepreneur isn't a guy who has an MBA, right? Isn't a guy who learned from Gary Vee. The biggest thing, whether you're a coach, an entrepreneur, you work as whatever it is, you absorb the mistakes you make and you never make them again, right? That's a post I made once before too. If our lives are a graph or a stock, right? The person that makes a mistake and then makes it again and makes it again, they don't grow, right? No matter how stupid the mistake you make is, if you learn from it and never do it again, you will continually rise throughout life, right? If you had one superpower and it was making a mistake once and never making it again, you would literally be the president of the United States. You'd be the world leader because none of us can do that. Whether it's addiction, whether it's whatever it might be, the way you run your business, ego, that's the hardest part for people. And like, I'm willing to fuck up and make a mistake once, but try to grow from it after that. Because 5 years from now, no one's going to remember that mistake. They're going to remember the amazing product or service that you're now offering, right? So it's so cool to me because I am just some dude that owns a business. You'd never think I was successful, but I think I have more I've learned by being willing to accept those mistakes than people that are worth, untold amount of money more than me, And it, to me, again, like that just goes back to just being a leader from the front and being able to take accountability, right? I'm not going to point fingers at people. And I think it's important to just be cognizant of that.
Yeah, 100%. And I kind of want to shift the conversation a little bit, if we can, back towards kind of the 110%, the supplement side of things, right? Obviously you had mentioned that, in college or while you're getting your associate's degree or in high school, I forgot when it was in your life that you were mixing your own pre-workout, right? You would get all, kilo bags of, certain ingredients, and then you'd make this funny white powder and you try and tell your friends it's definitely not cocaine. Obviously through that, doing it in an apartment or in like a really shitty dorm room, there's no third party testing. Like there's nothing going on there. But I mean, you are somebody that, takes that third party testing, and obviously because you are affiliated with, drug tested powerlifting so often, that's something that is needed to be done.
Right.
But when it comes to how important it is for you to provide this tested and safe product, is there any struggles that you had with that over the first couple of years, or is it just as simple as taking a product, sending it off to somewhere to get third-party tested and bringing it back? Because from what I understand, you also were having, I think you worked with a certain chemist on certain things, regarding like flavor profiles and certain, ingredient structures and stuff like that, to where like stuff can get sketchy. You don't know who's fulfilling, specific ingredients. And so you don't know what's getting cross-contaminated and all of that kind of stuff. I want to know if there was anything there that was kind of like a shock to you, or if, getting a third-party tested supplement is just as easy as it sounds, but people just don't want to pay that extra dime.
I think that there is a misconception. I think in America, we are known as like, oh, we have all these illegal ingredients that, the FDA is this thing that allows for things to red dye, whatever. And the reality is that, at least in my opinion, the supplement manufacturing industry in America is superior to anywhere anywhere else. Most manufacturers, if you're willing to pay the extra, will bring in a lab. Like we have a lab come in. I'm not saying it out. They have a lab that exists in the area. They contract them to come in. We test for obvious all cross-contamination, everything from mold, everything pH levels, and they also will guarantee a range of, because again, that any pre-workout or supplement you buy is not an exact 9 grams, right? There's a range. So they have a 5% range where, and I get that test and you look it over as like the teragranidine, go on the computer tonight, check out everything, make sure everything's good and go on. For me, the thing is there's only a few main supplement manufacturers. You could go to a lot of the sketchy ones, right? But that's on you. I've always partnered, like the one I use now, they do not even source illegal banned ingredients, right? The nice thing about powerlifting and tested sports in general is it's become such a big thing now that the whole like, oops, there's DMAA in it really doesn't happen unless you choose to use a bad, like a company that doesn't do it. The nice thing for me is I only use manufacturers that work with a lot of the major brands. So if my stuff is contaminated or they, lie about getting it third-party tested, we're all screwed. I am looking, as much as I'm confident with it, we've never had a banned test and I trust what I do. And then again, going back to the leader part, if we had a pop test, you see a lot of companies that their stuff is, they routinely put stuff in there. But if you reach out to them and say you popped in a test, they're going to laugh at you. They're not going to actually help you. I'm on record as saying if somebody got popped, I would absolutely come forward and have whatever product is tested. Our manufacturer and we ourselves keep up to 3 years every single flavor that we manufacture, just in case there's something, right? I will always come forward and be transparent. I will never say it's not your fault or whatever. I would pay for the additional 3,000 or whatever it is test from the USAPRPA to make sure it's not on our end, because it's important to me to, again, be transparent and honest. I actually am looking to do NSF for the thing is, it costs so much money that I would have to. We're looking at raising our price to $50 at some point anyway. But it would have to be to a price point that is tough because it's you're now contracting someone for every supplement line that doesn't already work with the manufacturer per se. But I would like to, while I trust my product and we already have it third party tested, I will probably do one major flavor like lychee apple, NSF certify it, and say, hey, if you don't trust our normal, this is here you go. Because you're paying for the badge on it, right? You don't know who we use for third party testing. I know and I trust it, but sometimes it's important to have that on there where it's like, hey, look, here's NSF. You really want it? Because there are people that come to me that are international lifters or whatever. And I get it. I understand because I wouldn't want to be banned for 3 years or 4 years anyway. You don't know who I am. You can't trust what I'm saying. But I think that the cool thing about starting powerlifting is that when I find a bro lifter who's used to the companies that can be sketchy, you can trust my product isn't, right? Because how many cops I have, firefighters, people that get drug tested that don't want that, I can guarantee you that you won't see that. That's one thing that's really cool coming from a tested sport is this is the hardest sport to stick in with because supplements are already really difficult. How many companies just disappear after a few years? I also have to make sure I'm not in bed with a company. There are companies I can manufacture with that would cost me half of what I pay now, but you're running a risk and I just won't run that risk, right? It's the same as if I own a restaurant and I'm making filet mignon. Yeah, you have the chance. You could buy cheaper meat. Some people might not notice. But, I know, and it's important to always make sure you're going to the best quality people. And honestly, that's something I do now where we've gotten to the point where I routinely vet, I travel out to, and I go to different, manufacturers. Like if someone says, hey, we want to run your stuff. Okay, I'll go. Let me go check out your facility and see if I really, because this is my life, right? If we get caught, someone gets popped on a test, that's my livelihood right there, right? I'm still mainly powerlifting. And honestly, I don't know what I would do from there because it wouldn't be, let me get my lawyer involved and deny, right? It would be like, you got to really, like, transparency isn't just a company byline. It's in my DNA. And it's something that it would actually hurt me, right? It's actually something that would cause me guilt or make me real, like it would screw me up, right? And I think that it's important to stand by the ethos or the pillars that you advertise, right? Every fucking company nowadays has transparency in their name, but they're not really transparent. You're about as transparent as this fucking brick wall. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, the power of me being the person up front, where you're buying your product from, right? Yeah, I'm not manufacturing my basement, but unlike these other companies, my manufacturer touches it, my hands touch it, and you do. There's nobody in between. It's just us, right? You call the number, it's me. It's so funny when people call the hotline and it's me answering. They're like, oh, I didn't know you were going to answer. And I'm like, your call is important to me, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the testing, everything is important, and I wouldn't do it differently. Even if we didn't have to test, even if powerlifting didn't test, I still want to make sure we have a clean, value-driven, effective product, and you're not getting ripped off for it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I wanted to ask you about NSF testing and about how important third-party testing is because we have, this new, and, I don't know if you've even thought about this, right? I'm pretty sure that to be a collegiate athlete, so like a NCAA collegiate athlete, not just like a club sport athlete like a powerlifting is normally, right?
Okay.
To be a collegiate athlete, I'm pretty sure you have to have that kind of stamp on whatever supplement you're doing or you're using to be compliant, right? And of course, like there's going to be collegiate athletes that just, there's people that juice in college for fuck's sake, right? Like that's never going to actually be the one all be all, but when it comes to this new era of collegiate sports where you have things like NIL deals and you have, we look at strength sports in a vacuum, right? We look at strength sports in a vacuum and powerlifting of just like, okay, it's just powerlifting. Maybe it's also Olympic weightlifting and like strongman. But all of these three things, they don't have an NCAA, recognition, right? There's nobody that's Olympic weightlifting on the NCAA level or powerlifting on the NCAA level. We'd fucking love to get it to that point. That'd be sick, right? How cool would it be to get, a signing day D1 signed to, like Texas Tech or Texas A&M or whatever it is. But, being in kinesiology for so long and working with strength coaches and people in sport physiology, which is our program for strength and conditioning, you start to see that, there's strength sports that you wouldn't think of as strength sports. You've got your throwers in field events that are just like, we talk about powerlifting being a power sport, for fuck's sake, those are power athletes. Dude, those are people that are doing something really fast, really heavy in a millimeter of a second and making it go really fucking far. Right. So I was wondering if you were wanting to potentially break into that market. If getting NSF compliant would allow you to be like, oh, cool, like now I can sponsor at the NCAA level. I can buy in a little bit to this NIL evaluation of a specific, like thrower that I really like. That's, from the New Jersey area potentially that throws for Rutgers. We can support him. Or whether or not that's not something that you see yourself doing, and that's totally fine as well.
I am one thing that's very one thing that really pushes a company's success or not is opportunity, right? There's things in life. If you became a YouTube star when it first started, and you're still doing it, you have millions of subscribers just because you've been doing it, right? The NIL is so new. It's a new opportunity. 20 years from now, it's been standardized. It's been saturated. So it is really cool that we are right on it just happened, and it should have happened years ago. I would like to see some kinks start to, because I think right now it's a money grab in the sense that people are making a lot more, and I think it'll start to go down a little bit, or you'll see it kind of shift. It's tough because I would offer NIL money, but the thing is, like, again, there's better. I hate to say this disrespectfully, but I don't offer anybody money up front because I don't know what you're able to do, right? You could have fake followers. You could have some of my best athletes, like engagement-wise, have left the company because they got paid $3,000 from this company a month, and they had 6 code users in 8 months, right? So, like, there is a level of just because you have engagement, I almost need a trial period of like 3 months. Or you grab someone early on, right? You find some kid that's got a decent engagement. They're a thrower at their high school, and they're breaking records. And you're like, all right, I'm going to take an investment. Like Sean Mills, if I approached him now and we weren't friends, we didn't have this partnership for 4 years, it would have been a lot different. So I think you can, get people early on, invest in them, and help them. Like I said, ironically, I have somebody, a buddy who's a doctor for the New York Giants. So as soon as I get NSF certified, it would be in the New York Giants locker room, and it would open us up to these bigger deals. We do have something big potentially coming in 2025 that I'll talk to you off camera about.
Yeah, it's exciting.
But there are some things that are in the early stages that would launch us to the moon, because we know about 110, right? And I'm successful enough, and people, you see it every so often, but like people still text me when they see a 110 tub in their home state. Like, we have the ability now with certain things in 2025, 2026 to become like, everyone knows who we are. Your mom knows who we are. Like, anybody knows who we are. And I think that I would take the risk on NIL when we get to it, but it's not a burning, how do I put it? Like, again, like influencers are just, a lot of the athletes even, they're great on the court, but that's not what sells for them, right? It's like having 100,000 followers because you're funny, and now all of a sudden you get a discount code. That doesn't mean you're going to sell it because people are following you because you're funny, right? So it's like, I'll navigate it, but I want to see the NIL environment kind of like, it's like buying a new video game or a new Xbox or something. Like, let the glitches kind of work themselves out first and then start to approach it. And I like when a lot of these athletes come to me first, because they do. Hey, I've been using 110 all through high school. I'm in college. Like, I have a couple kids that go to Rutgers, and you talk about it. I find that the power is for the person that's being asked. If I approach people, I have to really have a crazy offer. If they approach me because they like the product, it's different, right? So I don't have a set answer on that. Obviously, I want to get NSF or BSCG. Sorry, other there's BSCG and there's NSF. But again, like I said, I'm very confident in our testing anyway. It sucks that there's only 2 companies that are really known for what they do. Even though we've never had a banned test, it wouldn't happen. Like, again, we manufacture it in a place that, like, if we had NSF for one flavor, right? And then right after that flavor, they ran a second flavor, but it wasn't NSF certified. They're both clean, right? It's just a stamp on it. You know what I mean? But as you said, it's very important. It is an insurance policy for people, right? The everyday guy who dots 400 that gets banned, it doesn't really matter. Just go to WRPF or go wherever, right? Like, or I'm sorry, PLU or whatever the hell it's called now. But when you are an athlete or you are a guy on the NFL roster and you get banned for a year, right? That's a much different thing. That's like, and one of the things people don't realize with NSF, those companies, it's essentially an insurance policy for me. If they certify something and it ends up having banned ingredients, or someone pops in the test and they can prove it, they'll pay out to me. So it's like that too, right? Because if that happens right now, I'm on the hook. No one's helping me, right? Even the third party we use now. So there is levels to that, and there's a reason to do it. But again, it's a cost you have to pass on to the consumer, right? It's an important one, but if it costs an extra $3 a unit to do it, you're going to see a price increase, right? So it's like, I got to make sure, because this is a conversation for another day, but we're a direct-to-consumer brand trying to figure out how to get it out to wholesale, which is hard. You look at Bucked Up, right? They sell it for $60, and you wonder how they're a nationwide brand. It's because a wholesaler has $30 in margin to work with. We don't. So it's kind of like, let me continue to be successful where we're at and do that first, because truthfully, even if fucking Dwayne Johnson, posted a story saying 110 and we sold out, that's not necessarily a good thing, right? You want to have inventory and you want to be able to manage that. So like, it's like, do I really want to sell out in a night? Not really, because it doesn't really, it looks cool, but then my existing customers don't have anything. So I think there's a balancing act to it. And kind of like, for me at least, especially because it's supplements and I can't get an outside investment, I don't know that I would want to anyway, controlling equity. There is almost like an airplane taking off where you have to go a certain speed and then slowly like let it go up, right? You can't just start. It doesn't work that way. You don't just go into the air, right? So there is an art to it. But again, that is on the foreseeable. I will seek out NSF or something of that nature and start getting it out to NIL and then hopefully you see it in like football, you see it everywhere at that point,
Yeah, that'd be really fucking cool. And with you saying that, like, you don't want to take on investors, you don't want to, go to these big box stores. You love being direct to consumer. You love being DTC because you get your hands on the product, right? It's the only way that you don't have a middleman, right? You don't know what the fucking employee at GNC is going to do.
Right.
And you had mentioned, you said there are no plans to sell out. I don't need to be in GNC or compromise for quality or compromise our quality for money. That isn't important to me. I think you already kind of explained that throughout this entire call, right? But if we can end on anything, I think it's that right there, because you've proven through this, whatever podcast interview, whatever you want to call it, that you're not going anywhere. When God forbid you do have an exit strategy, and you're just like, you know what, I've got a family now, and like I just can't allocate the amount of time. I know this person, I trust this person, I'm going to allow them to run the brand now. We've sold it out to somebody else. I even just talking about that, I don't see you doing it. There's no way. There's no way. And even if you did, you'd still be there like, hey man, like, can I help you fulfill orders, please?
I would probably have to structure it where they keep me on as like I'd have to be in the board meetings, right? And then I'd be the last person anyway. I think that's also, you can ruin a business by strong-arming and being the only one you allow to make decisions. So I think it's important to have that. Like, for example, if we do a flavor sample and I like it, who the fuck cares what I think? I'm one person, right? I want other people to try it. You get in trouble that way. But the fun in this is taking my idea and turning it into this, right? So it's funny you say it, because like in this day and age, like I go home and watch Shark Tank. Like I love Shark Tank, but like I think entrepreneurship now is almost like build, scale, exit. And it just isn't that for me. Yeah. In 10 years, if someone offers me $50 million to exit, it's tantalizing, but it's not. I would probably take that money and just start another business, right? Like the real, like I had that we were quoting, the real victory is not crossing the finish line, but the journey it took to get there. I don't want to get to the finish line. I don't want to make like that. You know what I mean? Like the fun part is doing this every day. Like there are highs and lows, as you know, like anything, but that's the best part about it. And another thing about the golf course, funny enough, when I saw members that had done things like that were worth hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And they had nothing to do, you get bored. Part of life is the risk, right? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or whatever. Not saying you have to live paycheck to paycheck, but you hand me $100 million, I don't know that I'd be happy, right? I don't know that I would be happier that way, right? It's the whole like money doesn't buy happiness. Like I'm happy right now. And yes, the thing I have to watch out for is supplement companies vanish, right? You don't have a lot of legacy brands. It is a relatively new industry, right? It's not automobiles or something like that. Look at De Novo before us, right? Yeah. They were bigger than we were. And they're still around, but like, and Ben's a great guy, but like there's so many companies like that where it's like, what happened, right? PR Breaker, another one where like, and it's not like they just gave up, right? So it's like you got scared because the scariest thing is that you still put full effort in and you still lose, right? So it's like you got to be careful. Sometimes exiting is smart, right? You see the writing on the table, but that's why I don't increase my. It's funny you said JRE earlier. Shout out to Joe Rogan. As much as people hate him, some of the greatest interviews that he ever had were important as a young man. People want to say he's a Trump, whatever you want to say about him. The dude actually has had really meaningful people on. Naval Ravikant is an episode I've watched 20 times. And one of the things, that's where I get the don't increase your cost with the money you make as you get raises and promoted. My costs stay low enough. I'm still driving a fucking Kia, right? When you see me drive a luxury car, you know I have so much money. You know someone gifted it to me because it just isn't important to me. And I think, again, the most important thing as young adults, the most important things that you could do as a young adult is, God,
You're good.
we're gonna end it time. I apologize. The most important thing as a young adult is to put your phone on mute. No, is to is just to understand what you want. If it's money, that's fine. If it's be the head coach of this, and things shift too. It does not. What you wanted at 13 doesn't mean you have to do that forever. But again, you could tell me that you earned $100 million. I could meet Max Jr. or Christian Guzman and be happy for them and be cool, but that wasn't, I don't feel jealousy or like I have to do anything because I'm on the path that I set out for. And sometimes it's important to kind of remember that. And so it's just, I think people need to be more real with themselves and realize that what you want in life might be something nobody else wants, right? You might be alone on that journey, but it's your journey, right? You might want $10 million. That's fine. It's okay. I'm not saying it's a thing to be discouraged or embarrassed about, but you still should think hard on what you want. And that should be like, look in the mirror every day and am I on the right path? Whatever the path is, you're happy, you're making money, you're successful. That's all that matters. You don't have to answer to anybody. You answer to yourself, right?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it, man. I mean, it's come full circle at this point. We started talking about your life as a caddy. We finished talking about your life as a caddy. It's a great thing to do. Well, I wanted to just say thank you for joining me in this conversation, Kevin. It's obviously, like we said in the beginning, it's a long time coming. We have been talking about getting an episode together for years at this point. So I'm glad that it finally happened. If you do, I mean, obviously everything that we've talked about will be linked in the description, but I want to give you an opportunity to plug anything as well. Obviously with the new cherry grenadine stuff, I don't know if there's any stuff in the new year that you're going to be, wanting to push, whether it's like an important sale or anything. But I want to give you a couple minutes to do that.
We might have an RTD in the future, might have some big things on that end, but I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to talk about my company because in conversation what we just had, I don't need to. What I'm going to say is anybody who doesn't know you're an amazing individual. Even though, we live across the country, I remember the day I would talk in that group chat about 110 before I ever started it. I just want to thank you for having me. You're an amazing person. And you're killing it, man. I'm proud of you. And I'm just thankful that we got to have this conversation. And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, dude. Of course. Well, I appreciate that, Kevin. It means more than you probably think. We'll see each other in the new year.
You've earned it. That's the thing. I said you earned it. That's the thing. You've earned
Thank you.
Any of the praise, and you deserve it 10 times over. So I appreciate you having me on the call, and I will see you soon, hopefully. So
yeah. No, I'll be. We'll be at meets together. I mean, it's
in June at some point too. We gotta
go to a house show. Deep progressive house, baby.
Yes, deep house. That's what we'll end with. I'll see you, dude. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. All right, I'm gonna